Welcome to the Sustainable Clinical Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Sarah Smith. I am a practicing rural family physician and the charting coach. This is the podcast for physicians and advanced practice providers who are ready to step back from the busyness of their clinical day to share ideas, question everything, and redesign their clinical day. We are redesigning clinical medicine to create sustainable clinical days and create time for our lives outside of medicine. Join us for discussions with world experts who are helping design sustainable models of clinical medicine and the physicians or clinicians who have discovered or designed sustainable models of clinical medicine for themselves. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we have with us Dr. Laura Cazier, who is here to talk to us about her journey through emergency medicine and all the things she learned along the way. And she's still practicing in emergency medicine. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me.
Yeah, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us about your journey through the career of emergency medicine.
Okay, I tell people this often. In fact, I work in a pediatric emergency department now. And so I tell my patients this often that I went to college thinking I was going to be a teacher and decided my very last semester of college, I think I want to go into medicine. And so I liked the idea. I had grown up in kind of a tumultuous, dysfunctional household, and I liked the idea of the stability of medicine, that I loved being able to help people. I would be able to help people, and I would always know that I could support myself. So that is kind of where it started. I went to medical school at Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, Georgia, and then did residency training at Wake Forest University in North Carolina, and trained in emergency medicine and chose emergency medicine. I really loved surgery. I also, at that time when I trained, I'm definitely past mid-career at this point. I thought that if I had chosen surgery, it meant that I would not be able to be as present for any kids that I had. And that was important to me. In emergency medicine, I knew that I would be able to save someone's life. That was important to me if I needed to. And I knew that I would have a lot of the procedural things that I love to do and just have a challenge and a little bit different variety every day. And that has certainly been the case. I have loved emergency medicine. I've hated emergency medicine. It's almost killed me at times. Now I have come to peace with it after kind of a prolonged burnout episode I had early in my career. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that particular episode.
We'll to start with, what did you love that kind of ticked all the boxes, or what were you loving about it, and what did you mean by hating it? And so let's go kind of in that direction.
Yeah. So emergency medicine, there is so much opportunity every day to reach people on really the very worst day of their lives. And I love the opportunity to be able to make that human connection with them. I love being able to help them feel better when it's a really, really scary time. I love puzzles, and emergency docs oftentimes are the first person to be able to solve an interesting diagnostic puzzle. In fact, I don't know how the board exams are now, but when I went through my training, many of the board exams were like, patient presents to the emergency department with XYZ, because that is where they go when they don't know what's going on and it seems life-threatening. So I just love the puzzle solving aspect and just the opportunity to really, really touch people on a difficult day for them.
And then what was I hate this?
Okay, so if you are a particularly empathetic person, which many doctors are, emergency medicine can be extra challenging for a number of different reasons. We do see the worst things that might happen to someone. And we talk a lot about um, something called secondary traumatic stress. And that is, our brains really can't tell the difference between things that are happening to other people and things that are happening to us. A lot of times our brain thinks that it's happening to us just when we look at it or when we hear about it. And the statistics show that the higher empathy individual you are, the more likely you are to suffer from burnout. And I really firmly believe that this secondary traumatic stress is a big part of that. It's a big driver of it. The other thing is that you will see in the emergency department so many unsolvable problems.
Mm-hmm.
We can't fix things for everyone, especially these long-term substance use disorders. Those wore on me after a while. There were a lot of things that were going on in my brain about what was happening in other people's lives that drove my own burnout. And
Mm-hmm.
so I I really just say it is a love-hate. And I think many emergency physicians would say the same thing. It's a love-hate relationship, so much that we love, and then these aspects of it that are tough. And not just the substance use, but abuse. A lot of abuse comes through the ER violence. There's just a lot there that is, our brains are not meant to process even the normal amount of information that a regular person gets, but the sustained amount of trauma we witness and bad things that we witness, it's just like we're just not set up to do it. And so that's why we can hate it too.
Absolutely. What about the length of shift, the amount of work, how you were feeling by the end of the shift, number of days working? How is all that going as well around this kind of part of the career?
So when I experienced burnout not too long after I finished residency training. So
Mhm.
really pretty early in my career. And it was so bad for me that I actually quit medicine for
Mm.
3 years
Wow.
because I felt so horrible. But I had two little kids, 1 and 3 years old.
Okay.
The shift I was working primarily, my husband is an anesthesiologist, and so he had to be at work at 6 a.m.
Mhm.
And so overnights we didn't have family in town. Overnights were not really an option for me because I, getting a nanny a couple of times a week from like 5 to 7 a.m. was not feasible for us. And so I was working this shift mostly 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. And it was in a pod that had no relief, meaning that there was no doctor who took over for me at 1 a.m. I just had to finish all those patients out. So sometimes I would not leave until 3, 4 in the morning and then come home and get up with kids at 6.
Mhm.
And so absolutely fatigue definitely had an impact on my ability to do that job. I just couldn't do it after a while, and it definitely had an effect on my how I managed the stress of it all. The other thing was that I did not know how to manage my mind around the unpleasant things about work. So I might experience uncomfortable things at work, and then I would get off work and take it home and think
Mm.
about it all evening and
Mm.
all night. I dream about it, and then the next day I'm dreading going back to work. So really, work is taking over my entire
Mm.
life, and
Mhm.
that just wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk a lot about that, um, secondary trauma and trauma of medicine, the the connection with others, the ability to look after yourself and rest. And um, I can see a lot of pieces missing when you got a 1 and 3 year old. You're getting home
Yeah.
with uncertainty. Will it be 1 a.m.? Will it be 4 a.m.? Will it keep going? Like, is there any end to this?
Right.
and I can't put it down. I'm taking all of those patients home with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a
And
lot. It's no wonder I went down in flames, so to
and
speak.
yes, did you have anyone to offload this to? Was anyone noticing the difficulties of this piece of the emergency department that has no end and you're still there hours after your shift is started? They're like, Laura, are you still here? What's going on? Like, what was going on there?
I mean, that's just what everyone did on that particular shift. That's what you did. Now, and you had no control over when that last patient got put in there. So they might put one in there. The pod was supposed to close at 1.
Mm,
They might put somebody in who's actually pretty sick at 12:30 a.m. So I'm like, clearly that's not sustainable. And had I known then what I know now, I would have been able to address that better and realize that I needed to establish some boundaries for myself and what is acceptable and what's not. But I didn't. I didn't know that. And so
mm,
I didn't realize that speaking up was an option. And when I finally did speak up, I went to my medical director and I was like, I
mm,
can't do this anymore.
mm,
I was so done. I was like, I do not care if I never see this place again. She was like, if you leave medicine, you're probably not going to be able to come back, which was not true, one,
mm,
but also super unhelpful.
mm,
And I'd like to think that the culture of medicine has changed enough now that we're aware of the issues at hand. And we're aware that when someone is coming to us saying, I want to quit, you might not be able to come back is not helping them.
mhm,
There are there's other things that we can do to help those individuals. Like, tell me about it. How are you doing?
mm,
What can I do to help you? Let's make a plan. You are so valuable here. We want you to be here and we want to help support you. And
mhm,
if you choose to leave, that is also completely your choice. But we want you to get the support you need. And it just wasn't available to me.
That message was not what I heard you reporting about that conversation.
No, no,
Uh,
no. I was like, I was like, and I don't care
mm.
because
'Cause
I,
you were done, by the time you had that conversation, it sounds like you were done. Had you had conversations earlier about I can't before I'm not coming back? What was the how did that go for you?
I had one, and keep in mind, this was all more than 15 years ago, but I had one conversation previous, and I said, I need to take a month off to really think about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
took that month off. And of course, the work dread got even worse. And that's the thing that that I've noticed when I've been working with people who are struggling with issues of burnout is that until we learn how to manage our brains a little bit more effectively, taking time off can make things even worse. I was dreading going back so much that after that, and also noticing that I liked hanging out with my kids, I
That's
was
good.
like, no, yeah. So I took this month off and, said again, yeah, no, I'm not coming back.
Yeah. When you said it nearly killed you, did you mean that literally or it was the physical toll? What did you mean?
I mean that if I had gone on the way I was going, there is no telling where it would have led me. I
Mhm,
was so incredibly exhausted, and I know enough about what chronic exhaustion can do to the brain
mm,
and to our bodies that, yeah, I have no doubt that I, had I not figured things out, then I would be much worse off or not here at this point. Um, you know, Women physicians commit suicide multiple times more than other women, even other professional women physicians do. And I firmly believe that the extreme tiredness, the fatigue, the lack of consideration that we offer to ourselves and our colleagues about the need for sleep is a big driver of that. And I I've seen it. I've spoken to survivors of women who have succeeded in committing suicide, and it's always she was just so tired. She just wasn't thinking straight. She was exhausted, and so you just never know. But
Mm-hmm.
being that tired all the time is horrible, horrible for our physical and mental health. And so, and
Mm-hmm.
it's never something we would ever recommend to any of our patients. Like that is ridiculous. Like it's so hypocritical, really, you know? So there's a reason that lack of sleep is used as a device of torture.
Mm.
It makes us go mad. And so, yeah, definitely was not on a healthy path at that time.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds incredibly hard and miserable for you. Miserable.
Yeah. Well, it's totally what so many women physicians go through that.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't realize also having little kids, it really does kind of reshape our brains and reshapes our priorities and makes things makes medicine really not seem as important as it once did, even though later we might realize that having that career is so beneficial to us and that we can really love it. But in that time when you're so tired with little kids, it's like, what is the point? Like, really, why am I doing this?
Mm. Yeah. And it's another reason to be guilty because, like you said, you felt like you weren't present, you weren't able to be there with a good night's sleep. It was just another thing for your brain to stress about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So the 1 month off, I totally understand what you mean. The stopping, you think it's going to be so good when I stop, but then
Yeah.
wow, all of the things that you're kind of pushing down and hiding and holding away because you just didn't have the mental capacity for it. You get a couple of nights sleep and all these things just like
Yeah.
appearing. I agree. Above at that point in your burnout is like band-aid.
Mhm.
Oh, it's so dangerous. Like you said, like the taking the stress off you can sometimes kind of have that rebound um negativeness about it as well. So you went to the supervisor and said, I'm out. Was it immediately able to leave, or what did that require of you to finish up?
Honestly, I think I'm trying to remember. It's been so long ago. I don't know that I was on the schedule after that. You know, I said, let me have a month off. Don't put me on the schedule and I'll pick up if I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was me. I was done. I did do some volunteer work that during that period of time at a local children's clinic
Mhm.
before I was able to make the decision to come back.
Yeah, so 1 month off, I might come back, but you're like, I'm 1 month, do not put me on the schedule. I'll tell you what I'm going to be up to. Did you do anything then for you or just the stopping? What did you do from a burnout perspective at that point?
So initially, I think I just was settling into life with my kids. And I have four kids and all. So I had the other two. Well, no, I had the third before I came back, and I was pregnant with the fourth when I decided to go back to work. What ultimately helped me to go back to work was for me to get my priorities straight and understand what my core values were and realize that practicing medicine did match those. It did help me fulfill my purpose, and that I am a good doctor, and I knew that I was helping my patients, and I knew that if I returned to medicine, I could expand my influence for good. And I knew that being a physician, being a professional, I have one daughter and three sons, but being a professional actually would be beneficial to my daughter, for her to be able to see what I could do and see what was possible for her and beyond. And I missed the intellectual challenge. I missed the social aspect, and I missed that being able to help other people. So once I understood why I was doing it, and it's not for a paycheck, and it's not for prestige. And those are core values for other people, and that is great.
Mm-hmm.
But when I knew that I could make it align with my own core values, then and set appropriate boundaries for myself, then I knew that I could do it. And I've learned so much in the interim that has increased my ability to practice in a way that is joyful and sustainable. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been a cool journey.
Yeah. So tell us the boundaries that were required to go back to work with three little kids and one on the way. Because if you're like, okay, I'll sign up, like that must have been a sweet deal. Tell us what you negotiated.
Well, and it's not even necessarily boundaries with the people. Like, it's not boundaries about my schedule or pay or any of that. It's boundaries about what is okay and not okay
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how I allow myself to be treated and how I myself treat myself.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing is not okay to wait to, and you'll appreciate this, it's not okay for me to wait till the end of my shift to chart.
Mm-hmm.
That is not okay. And the reason it's not okay is because it drains my energy. I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember as well. It drives my burnout. And so that
Yeah.
was one thing. I have to chart as I go.
Yeah.
Another was with consultants. So emergency physicians obviously have to call consultants,
Mm-hmm.
and consultants, we have to call them at all hours of the night sometimes. And some are more emotionally mature than others. And so
Like
when
hate
I,
that.
yeah. So when I get one who is not very emotionally mature, and they call and are acting very narcissistic and rude, in the past, I would have just taken it and been like, and then ruminated about them and thought about them and like, oh, can you believe what a jerk that guy was? And really, he heard none of that. It was just me like drinking that poison over and over again, expecting him to die. And, and so I learned how to manage those people and how to make sure I'm always treated with respect. So things
Okay.
like
How do you
that.
manage those people?
Okay.
Because everyone's going to be asking me.
You can decide for yourselves, but I will tell you how I manage them. If someone calls me, like returns a call, and it starts speaking unkindly to me. Now, keep in mind, I always try to be very concise, tell them exactly what it is. Hey, thank you so much. I start with, hey, thank you so much for calling me back. I don't like to have to call you at this time of night, but I need your help with XYZ. And if it's either I need your help to see a patient, or I need your help for follow up, whatever it is. So they know at the beginning, like, this is what you're getting. Then
Mhm.
I'm really as brief as possible and tell them this is what I think the problem is. And then if they are coming at me unkindly, I simply say, hey, are you okay? Because I don't think you realize how you're coming. and I expect to be treated professionally. Now, that will usually stop them. And it's been years since I've had to get past that. If they continue on that, hey, I will talk to you again once you have returned to your professional self. For now, I'm gonna stop this conversation. I expect to see you at the bedside, and let me know if there's anything that you need before you get here. Like basically just be very clear. Do not let that nonsense go on, because the more they do it, the more they think they can do it. And they actually kind of get a buzz off doing it. And like, so you need to stop that feedback loop so that so they realize that they can't treat you that way. And it's not doing them any favors to allow them to continue to behave that way. That is very old guard medicine, old guard culture. It is not acceptable in society in 2024. It's just not.
Beautifully said. I love it. And yes, you don't have to use exactly those words, but just hear the context and hear the conversation and hear that there's choice, right? You have choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so good, so good. It's one of the parts of the emergency department as a rural doctor. You're always ringing and you got to kind of explain who you are, where you are, how far away you are, what you're
Yeah.
looking at, because they can't see it. So you get good at those. I'm waking you up because blah.
Yeah, yeah. And realizing that they a lot of times will have their own little
Things on the
ideas
go. Yeah, absolutely. All the
about
things.
who you're.
Who am I? What have I actually got? Yeah, all the things that they've got going on as well. Yeah, absolutely. So important. Okay, so that was part of it. So you said it wasn't really about schedule, but there must have been. So you said no chatting after. It's going to get done during. I'm going to have conversations that matter. I'm not going to be treated in a way that, and I'm not going to take it home. Their attitude's not coming home with me. Yeah, yeah. What else? What else did you need?
So I personally, and this is going to be different for everyone, I personally made the decision to go back and only do pediatric emergency medicine. And what I realized was that I grew up in a home with an alcoholic dad, and I realized that so much of the substance use that I was seeing was really re-triggering childhood trauma for me. And that was another driver of why I was feeling so horrible. And I could work through that if I chose to. However, I have this where I live, our pediatric emergency department is completely separate. And so I had this ready situation I could move into that was going to be much more joyful for me to do. And so that's what I did. And it was really a great choice for me. I did later put my toe back into doing adult emergency medicine again. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm good.
Oh yeah, no. I love the voice. It's like, no, it's not mine.
No, this isn't what um we my coaching partners and I like there's a quote by Alexander Denhyer that it goes something like this. You're not exhausted or tired because you are doing too much. It's because you're not doing enough of what lights you up. And taking care of kids lights me up. Taking care of adults doesn't light me up in the same way. And that's going to be different for each one of us. I think what lights us up, and it's so helpful to just pay attention to the where you really feel excited and go towards that. Do more of that. And that's a great way to just create more fulfillment and create something that you can keep doing for a long time.
Interesting. Now, you did do some coaching. How did that come about?
So it's interesting. I was a psychology, I started college planning to be a teacher and switched to psychology and actually had thought about being a clinical psychologist. That was kind of where I was when I finally decided to go to medical school. And I get to Christmas break, college, and I was like, oh man, if I'm a clinical psychologist, I have to write a dissertation. And I've written every paper ever the night before. So I was like, I don't know. That doesn't sound fun to me. Like, I don't like the idea of having this, 4 to 6 year long research and writing situation. And then I thought, oh, medicine. I can use psychology in medicine for sure. And it's going to be a more structured course. So I did that and then, wound up in emergency medicine. And then, but I've always loved psychology. It's just always been a passion of mine. And so one of my residency classmates, Amanda, the only other one in my residency program class, she and I started chatting and she did an integrative medicine fellowship and like she had gone through a totally different variety of burnout and wound up with like hives when she went to work. So she was exploring all this other stuff to kind of understand more about how to be well. And then she started talking about doing a coach certification program. And we'd both been following a physician coach on her podcast and had been listening to other coach podcasts and was like, wow, this is really good stuff. And really, doctors need this information. And so we both went through the certification process at the same time and joined with a third emergency physician, Kendra, and who also went through a different coaching certification. But it was so transformative to us and so much information that wow. And if we had had the information we have now coming out of medical school or even going into medical school into residency training, we would have done so much better. And I don't mean academically because we did great academically, but psychologically, like
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, there was I mean, you think about what we are exposed to in medicine and what psychological preparation did we receive? Or what psychological support did we receive as we were going through this? I think schools and training programs are doing better about it now. I know they are. Some of us are hire us to help them with it, but like then, you know, it was nothing. It was like, just suck it up.
Yep. Run it off,
Yeah.
drink it
Yeah.
away. So yeah, they weren't very good techniques that we were learning from our mentors.
No, no. Here's a pizza party. We'll get you a drug rep lunch. How about that? Like, it just was, we weren't, we weren't adequately prepared. And so, learning what we did through coach training, we're just so excited to be able to share with other doctors and help them hopefully avoid what we went through. We get a lot of clients who are in the middle of their burnout. Like some of them are in the middle of their time, taking time off, and they're like, I'm going back. I need help
Mm-hmm.
making this sustainable. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been so fun and so gratifying.
Okay, so you are still practicing in emergency medicine.
Yes.
So what does a shift look like now if we were to look at you working now that you have some of these coaching techniques or some of these strategies for burnout? How does it look different to maybe when you first came back after burnout or wherever you think there's that comparison?
So many things are different. I am a completely different person now. I'm so much more confident. I feel so much more able to help my patients. And always help them, but in terms of being able to help them feel heard
Mhm.
and understood and actually truly connect, I'm able to manage that charting part. I'm able to manage my thoughts around difficult cases, and I'm able to leave it at work. 90, I'd say probably 98% of the time, I
Mm.
can leave things at work, and I practice in a way where I am working with integrity and I feel confident about the way I practice and can just feel good. I celebrate myself and my patients a lot more, and I celebrate my coworkers. When you're coming to work super burned out, it's hard to have enough energy to even notice the people around you. You kind of just feel like you've got your head down and you're carrying this ton of bricks and a sack on your
Mm.
back. And it's just tough. It's tough to have empathy for other people. It's tough to even like pick up if other people might be struggling. But now I love being able to, help elevate the vibe of the whole department when I'm there, and work really is joyful almost all the time now. So
Tell me about the empathy, because you have a big bucket of empathy, we heard you say, and then you were taking patients home and ruminating on them, and now that is peaceful in your brain. How? What are the steps during the day? Because you're still seeing cases, you're still seeing patients, you're still seeing humans at their worst and on their worst day, and
mhm.
really difficult cases at times, in emergency departments. We're going to presume because that's emergency medicine for you. What do you think it is that your brain does differently or you do differently that helps you to leave it at work and maintain you while helping others? Able to describe
So
first?
yeah, so there's several things there. I'll start with the empathy part. As physicians, we are extremely left-brained. We're very task-oriented. We're looking for things going wrong. And that is the way we were trained, and definitely serves us as we're learning how to diagnose and treat illness. That is great. However, it does not serve us in terms of being able to connect with our patients and with other humans in our lives. And so I've had many patients who were my teachers in terms of helping me develop empathy. I remember one in particular in residency. I had this gentleman he had a COPD exacerbation. He was still smoking. And I remember telling him, I'm a resident, and I'm like, why you're here. You're still smoking. And of course, that had zero empathy. And he set me straight. He's like, you cannot talk to me like that. You need to treat me with respect. And that guy started my brain thinking, so how do I treat my patients with respect? And it is very easy when we are very left brain to be very judgmental. That left brain is the judging part of our brain. And judging is will drive us away from the ability to be able to empathize with people. And so Brene Brown's husband, I believe I'm saying this right. Her husband shared something with her that she shared, and I thought, this is life-changing. He says, I don't know if other people are doing the best that they can, but when I believe that they are, I am a better person for it, and my life is better for it. And that, to me, is kind of the heart of that. If I go to work and assume that everyone is doing the best that they can, we don't know the circumstances that people were born into, what things have been said to them, what things have been done to them. We just don't know their lived experience. And when we judge them for why they're there or the condition that they are in, it doesn't make them feel good and it doesn't make us feel good. And so when I'm trying to empathize with someone, I try to look at things from their perspective. Obviously, that's what empathy is. But I just start with, in the emergency department, I just start with, hey, I'm so sorry you have to be here today because I know this is not where you would like to be. And
Mm.
how can I help you? And hearing them and asking, so what is it that you're really worried about? And how can I help? Tone is a big thing. It's interesting. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Blink, and if you haven't read that, I highly recommend it. But in it, he references a study where doctors were recorded, and the recordings were played for people to listen to. And they took out the words that the doctors were saying. So all they could hear was the tone of what the doctors were saying. And those people who listened to those recordings could identify which doctors were going to be sued just based on like 2 seconds of listening to their tone of voice. And so when we're coming in with a judgmental tone, it's not only are like we don't have this therapeutic relationship with the patient, but we're also more likely to get sued. So just those are just some of the things. There's, developing empathy is a lifelong process. We're all hopefully are working on that. But those are just some of my little hacks. It's just
You know,
assume that they're doing the best they can.
I am actually fascinated by that and I love it. And it was excellent. And I was actually thinking that you had dialed back your empathy, but you actually just took us into this world of I didn't have any and I needed some. And then I get kind of the opposite. I hear stories of I have too much and I need to stop giving all of me to everyone. And I'm like, oh, this was great because I actually was I need more. And
Yeah.
here's how you get it. I'm like, yes, that was great. Thank you.
Well, here's the other thing, though, that's interesting is that having boundaries helps us to have empathy.
Mm.
This is another Brene Brown. Like, if you do not have boundaries,
Yes.
you can't have the empathy that you need. And so you think that you're being this great kind person by working yourself into the ground and just doing whatever the system tells you to do. No, no, you're actually making yourself a less empathetic doctor. So learning those boundaries will help you develop that empathy.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. And the not taking difficult things home. So how does that happen? Because that's almost the reverse of what you were doing before. What do you think changed in that process?
So through the power of neuroplasticity, we can change our brains, right? And if we're in the habit of thinking about work when we come home, we can just decide, is this what I want to keep doing? Is
Mm.
that really what I want to be doing? And is that going to change anything for that patient? If I'm thinking about them all the time, is that going to improve their outcome? Or is that going to make them like me anymore? Am I going to allow work to take over my home life? And I chose not to. I chose to leave it at work. And so sometimes I do a little exercise where as I'm walking out the ambulance bay to the doctor's parking lot, like you can just kind of shake it off, like brush
Mm.
off that energy. And it's telling my brain, okay, work is staying at work and I am going home now. And it takes practice, but over time, our brains learn this is what we do.
Yeah. I heard you say some other things that I think might have helped as well. So the confidence, I feel confident at work. So that is kind of that practice, if I'm understanding you correctly, of saying, I did good work here.
Yes, yes. So, along with just assuming that everyone else is doing the best that they can, I'm doing the best that I can.
Love it. That's so good.
And I'm doing great. And I may not be a perfect doctor, but I am bringing healing to my patients every day.
Mm.
And I am sending out good ripples into the world. And I can feel good about that.
Okay. important. And then celebrating you, like celebrating the way you showed up in your shift, celebrating getting your notes done in the day. That's going to have
Yes.
a different energy than did I make the right decision? Did I make the right decision? Like you said, that neuroplasticity of what do you say on repeat to yourself about your shift and during your shift. I hate this. I dread this. I don't want to do this. Did I make the right decision? I could have done better versus, hey, good job. You really
Yeah.
connected with that human. You really showed up for that puzzle detective work that you love. You connected with them. You showed empathy there, or whatever that. I don't know what your brain says in the day that gives you that kind of energy back, but it's got to be different than what you were saying before.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, a lot of times is it's just noticing, and this may be hard. It certainly would have been hard for me to believe at the peak of my burnout,
Mm,
but love, like that I'm able to feel love for my patients, almost all of them. I'm able to feel love for my coworkers and marvel at how amazing each of these individuals is. Um, I'm able to notice what is going right all the time. And that it's interesting. Doctors are not wired this way. We're wired to look for what's going wrong.
mm,
And again, that helps when you're trying to find out what's going wrong, but
mm,
it also makes so much go wrong in our minds and in our lives, really. Like it just drains us. And I'm sure that you experience this with your clients as well. Like if you're shaming yourself, and doctors are so hard on themselves so many times, there's so much negative self-talk, and they
mhm,
might not even realize they're doing it. But
mhm,
that's such a drain on our energy and our ability to function and certainly be optimized and feeling great about ourselves. So I just it just takes some practice. We can change our brains. We can learn how to feel good and look for the good.
mm. So you really are a different person going to work. It
Oh,
kind of
100%.
explains that just in a more concrete way for those left brainies.
Yeah. Well, if you come through medicine, we're left brainies, like there's not it's and it's interesting to me. I wish that we had had like some art component to help balance that out. We could have been drawing more, or there could have been some creative element to our medical training to help balance it out. There's a really, really fantastic book called Whole Brain Living by a neuroscientist named Jill Bolte Taylor that explains what it means to live with using both hemispheres of your brain. And it really definitely is an advantage in terms of improving our wellness, is to be able to learn to use that right side of our brain too.
Nice. Love it. How can people find you if they're looking to learn more or learn what you do?
So the three of us, Amanda, Kendra, and I, are the whole physician, and we have our program is on our website, www.thewholephysician.com. We also have a podcast called Drive Time Debrief, and that has a lot of content there just to help doctors feel better. The idea for that one is it's a opportunity on the drive to or from work to have a moment to kind of let it all out and take in some new good information, help us feel better.
Nice. Love it. So good. Anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring forward today?
Oh, and we could talk for days, I'm sure, but I just appreciate so much what you're doing. Charting is such a huge issue for so many doctors, and they have so much shame around it. And you're such an incredible resource to help get that piece under control and help people, not feel so alone. And so thank you so much for everything that you're doing, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you so much for this conversation. I think this will be very helpful for our emergency doctors out there and all of you. So really, thank you very much for coming on today. All right. Well, have a wonderful week, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for being part of the Sustainable Clinical Medicine podcast. If you'd like to learn more or join us to help you get home with today's work done, go to chartingcoach.ca. There you'll find all the information on the premier Lifetime Access Charting Champions program that is helping physicians get home with today's work done, with all the proven tools, support, and community you need to create time for your life outside of medicine. We would love to see you there. Until next time, thanks for listening.